In this universe, we humans ask many different questions in our day-to-day lives, such as, what is the meaning of life? And why are there so many types of cheese? All of which can have their own different interpretations. But there is one question this world has yet to answer. Why is Bubble from TADC so freaky? With all that dramatic build-up out of the way, I wanted to use this video to talk about Bubble specifically, because I feel like out of all the characters from the Digital Circus, he's the one to get the least amount of attention drawn to him. Now, I wasn't quite sure about how I wanted to structure this video, or if I wanted to stick to one theory, so here's the way things will pan out. Each segment in this video will be a different theory about Bubble, so I can make sure I tackle this subject in as many different perspectives as possible. This will probably be the only theory video I make, at least in terms of this show. Speaking of which, I'm assuming everyone here has already watched the Digital Circus. If not, I advise you to click off now to avoid spoilers, and go ahead and watch the 6 episodes that are out now. But if not, then make sure to enjoy this video. This is going to be a fun one, so grab your bones and pop your pansies, and let's get into the first theory. The very first theory here suggests that Bubble actually used to be a human who suffered the same fate as everyone else in the circus. Now, this one is pretty bizarre, but I thought it would be cool to add. Some evidence of this also links towards Caine himself. Caine usually interacts with each circus member slightly differently, and when Bubble was a human, Caine favored him so much he decided to make him part of his system. Now, I know this might seem crazy, but he liked Bubble so much, the thought of losing him to abstraction was so overwhelming that Caine eventually gave him the ability to not abstract and to not die. This is shown whenever Caine pops Bubble, and he reappears as if nothing ever happened to him. Aside from that, there isn't really anything to back this theory up, as it is one of the more out there ones. So I think it would be a good idea to switch from this idea and move on to the next theory, which might explain some more reasons why Bubble acts the way he does. Theory number 2 suggests that Bubble isn't really his own AI, but rather an extension of Caine. By Caine, I mean Caine's mind. Now, this is a lot to unpack right away, so breaking it down will make it much easier to dissect. As we all know, Caine is not a big fan of swearing in the Digital Circus. As he says, he wants it to be a place for all people of all ages to enjoy. Obviously, this means whenever someone swears, it is bleeped out. But there was one example of this in episode 2, Candy Carrier Chaos, where Bubble says this.
An entire kingdom of candy sounds sticky.
Very sticky indeed.
Sounds
Bubble, you can't say.
Yeah, another funny but random line from Bubble, right? Well, yes, but there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, Caine seems very surprised by Bubble saying this, even though Bubble seemingly acted like this in the pilot episode. Despite the obvious interaction, there is another piece of evidence that greatly stands out. Remember when I said that Caine doesn't like swearing and that any will be censored? Well, he usually censors it with a Caine censor. However, in Bubble's case, he was bombed with the normal bleep censor and not the Caine censor. This may be because he is an AI and not a human, or because what he said was so bad Caine couldn't comprehend it. At this point, you might be thinking that things kind of spiraled out of control, but bear with me, it'll all make sense in a bit. So now that we know Bubble says some weird stuff, we can also point out that as the episodes have progressed, he has started to show way more dirty-mindedness than ever. This is mainly highlighted in episode 5, Untitled. Bubble says that Caine should die before correcting himself and suggesting to throw a beach party, almost like an AI correcting itself to say something way less dark as a joke. Also, some imagery in this episode supports the idea that Bubble is an extension of Caine, with them being in between his eyes and appearing everywhere he is. Or maybe it's not as bright as we all think it is. You see, Caine is the ringmaster and has a focus on making cool and what he thinks are fun adventures for his guests. Because of this, finding out nobody likes them makes him ever more increasingly unhinged these past few episodes. The same way Bubble started acting out way more out of context than usual these last few, as well. Now, this may be a coincidence, but it definitely is something worth bringing up. Caine, now enraged and more crazy than ever, is using Bubble as a sort of vessel to get through his emotions. Only in his case, it comes out as strange and sus lines from Bubble. At the end of the day, it may just be an AI trying to figure out that it's bad at the only thing that they know how to do, and trying to cope with that fact by channeling their anger into another AI. Now, this segment is less of a theory and more of an observation I've had while watching the series. One thing we all know about the circus is its many different adventures Caine makes. As I said earlier, Caine likes making these adventures for the cast, but none of them really seem to enjoy them, especially Zooble, given they try to avoid going on them as much as possible, fueling Caine's instability even more. But as the series goes on, we can see a bit of a decline in Caine's adventures. Less of how creative they are, but more so about how enthusiastic he feels about each of them. In episodes 1 through 3, we see him being absolutely hyped for everyone to go on his new adventure. But starting with episode 4, his adventures are finally starting to take a hit on the cast. Like them using a suggestion box idea instead of the one Caine made, or going through all the ideas in episode 5. But episode 6 is very interesting, as Caine seemed to get a bit more lazy since he had his award show to plan. But after a lot more bickering between him and Zooble, he decided he didn't care anymore and led a battle royale to keep everyone at bay while he plans the show. But as you'll know if you've seen the episode, when everyone sets off and find guns around the circus, Caine doesn't actually do what he led on to everyone. Instead of planning or creating the award show like he said he would, he goes to stare at an image of what seems to be a CNA office, possibly hinting at the fact he wants to escape. Or instead of planning the show, he finally starting to figure out what to put on the other side of the exit everyone has been wanting so badly. At the end of the episode, with its post-credit scene, Caine seems to glitch and bug out since he got no votes for favorite character. Zooble wasn't on the list, hinting at the fact Caine might have removed them to put his own spot on there. I know I said this video was supposed to be about why Bubble acts so strangely, and why he started to get worse about it in each episode as of late, but it ended up being more about Caine than anything, but also because this further proves my point that Caine and Bubble are linked together in some way. They always show up together and are always around each other. Anytime Caine feels off, Bubble starts going crazy, and since Caine is starting to show more cracks through his bizarre ringmaster front, it shines through as Bubble himself is starting to literally freak out as well. If you're new here, I'm not going to tell you to like or subscribe, so do if you want to, whatever satisfies you. And with that out of the way, there's not much else to say.